Are you ready to take your expertise, package it, and sell it to an audience of raving fans? But you're sitting there and you're worried because you feel like it may not work for you? Well, the short answer is that it definitely will. But before you go and launch your graphic on Instagram, only to be disappointed by crickets in your inbox, I want you to pull up a chair, grab a notebook and a pen and watch this video because in it, I'm going to give you 3 very simple and sustainable strategies that I use to grow my consulting business to a 6-figure business in just 6 months. You're not going to want to miss this. Hey friend, if you're new here, my name is Brianca Kirkman and I am a strategic brand and business consultant. I specialize in helping my clients transform their corporate expertise into profitable consulting offers and land their first client in just 90 days. Subscribe to my channel for weekly videos to learn how you can pivot from corporate employee to consulting. Today, we're going to learn all about the 3 strategies that I use to grow my side hustle into a multi-6-figure coaching and consulting business. These strategies are going to be positioning your expertise, priming your audience, and planning a successful launch. So I hope you got your pen and your paper ready. I hope you got your little beverage because we are about to get into it. So the first thing that I want you to know is that before you go and launch your offer, before you start promoting it on Instagram and LinkedIn, the very first thing that you are going to want to do is position your expertise. And basically what this means is that you want to take the skills, the experiences, the expertise that you have, and you want to create a plan around how you are going to capitalize on those skills and leverage them for your audience so that way they can begin to see you as the expert that they want to pay. So what that may look like is bridging the gap between this is the skill that I have, this is the problem that you have, and this is how my skills can help you to accomplish the goals that you have or come to the solution that you are looking for. If you've ever launched and you felt like no one paid any attention, they didn't show up to your launch event, they didn't sign up for your webinar, or they didn't comment the keyword under your post or whatever that looks like, right? They did not sign up for your offer. They didn't sign up for your program. They didn't book the discovery call. It can be very disappointing. It can feel like your skills are not valuable or that people just don't want to work with you. But the truth is that you probably made the number one critical mistake that people make, which is that you didn't talk enough about why they should work with you. You did not position your expertise. And basically what this means is that you fail to let your audience know why they should work with you, why they should trust you. What experiences have you had in the past? What results have you delivered in the past? You are the premier, the creme de la creme, okay? One of the reasons that we make this mistake is because we don't want to come across as braggadocious or we want to be humble. We feel like, well, I did the work. People should just know and they should come and they should work with us. But that's not actually how it works. They need to see examples. They need to see case studies. They need to see testimonials. They need to see quantitative and qualitative data that proves that what you are saying you can do and what you are saying you can deliver, you can actually do and deliver. And that means creating content that showcases your skills and your expertise, that highlights your unique value. When I first decided to launch my business back in 2018, I had worked as a digital director for a national gubernatorial campaign. I'd worked for multiple nonprofits and other political campaigns across the country. And I had been working in marketing for a little over 8 years when I decided to launch my business as a marketing consulting company. I had a bachelor's degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing. I had a master's in marketing, advertising, communications. I'd worked in literally every role in marketing that you can think of, from being a social media manager to being a website designer, writing copies and emails. Like, I'd done it all. And I really hadn't talked about it. I mean, if you knew me, then you knew what the work was that I'd done and you knew what I was capable of. If you did not have a direct connection to me, then it was very hard for anyone to know that I should be trusted with their marketing dollars and with their marketing campaigns. So I started as a service-based entrepreneur. And basically what that means is that I will be the person that other organizations, entrepreneurs, or companies will hire to come in and develop their profitable marketing campaigns using like the expertise and the skills that I cultivated while working for nonprofits, political campaigns, and working in corporate America. But I never shared the results of those campaigns. I never shared, what I was able to accomplish. I never shared graphics from the campaigns that I did. I never talked about how my campaigns grew while working with me, or the number of new subscribers that we got, how our engagement rates increased, how we increased website traffic. I never talked about any of those things. And so I'm coming into the marketplace and I'm saying like, hey, hire me. I have all this expertise as a digital director, but then I didn't have anything that kind of like backed that up. So when it was time for me to go full-time in my business, I just kind of expected like, hey, I've been doing this for a decade. I'm very good at what I do. People have hired me. They've gotten results. Why wouldn't you, right? And I just kind of expected that these clients would come to work with me in droves. Baby, I thought that once I put the flyer out, they would be knocking, banging down the door. And that's not what happened. Because the truth was that although I had been doing it for a really long time, I had been doing it behind the scenes. And the people on the internet, the people who I now wanted to work with, the people who I was creating the content for, they didn't know me, right? They didn't know me as a digital director, as a marketing director. They just simply knew me as Brianca. And so now I'm having to show up in a new way. I'm having to highlight my body of work and my skills and my expertise in a way that would connect with them. And that was a very, very big mindset hurdle for me to overcome. So I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to start educating my audience on what digital marketing even is. I had to talk about the clients that I served, the organizations that I worked for, the initiatives that I led, the skills that I had. And I had to solve problems in real time. That's one of the reasons why I'm so good at being able to put plans together like off the fly, because that was one of the ways that I showcased what it was that I was able to do. When people would come to me with problems, the very first thing I would do is give them a list, a very simple, very actionable task that they could do to overcome what that problem was. And when they overcame it, 9 times out of 10, they came back to work with me because they were like, dang, what she told me to do, I did it and it worked. And so one of the ways that I found for me that was the easiest to position my expertise was literally to just teach and to talk and to solve problems and to walk people through it. I'm a very kinesthetic learner. And so being able to kind of like be in it with a client is something that I enjoy. And so I leaned into that superpower of mine. I kind of leaned into that skill set. And it really helped me to stand out. I started talking about my time in corporate America. I started talking about the clients that I had served and the campaign results that I had achieved, the teams that I oversaw, the work that we were able to do together. I talked about my experiences working in corporate America, working over 100 hours a week, being burnt out. All of these things became a very big part of who I was and why I was doing the work I was doing. It kind of fueled my mission behind it. As a result of me sharing my expertise and talking about things that I was doing for my clients, I started to see my clientele grow. I started to see that people were reaching out more frequently to work with me. I was sharing my framework. They were getting results. I was telling them what to do. They were getting results, and I was uptaking the number of retainer clients that I was serving on a month-to-month basis. And so in 2020, when COVID stuck, I realized that I was very unhappy in my work as a digital director. I started this consulting business kind of as a side hustle, just out of a desire to fill a need or gap that I saw in the marketplace. But I never wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur. I wanted to be the kind of woman who would climb the corporate ladder and become the CMO of Target. I wanted a very glamorous almost lifestyle. And so being in entrepreneurship was the exact opposite of that. So I wasn't super intrigued by that idea. But when COVID struck, I realized that I was very unhappy. I was working an insane number of hours. I did not feel like there was much growth opportunities for me in my current role because I was already at the top. I was a digital director by the time I was 25. So where else is there to go outside of that? I didn't want to be just the overall marketing director for a nonprofit. I just didn't feel like the pathway was there for me. So I had already been preparing kind of consciously and unconsciously by growing this marketing consulting business. I had been talking about, going full time and what the opportunity could look like for me. I consulted with my family, with my friends, with my now husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. And I was preparing to quit, but not until October of 2020. However, on the day that COVID struck Atlanta, like when we got the notice, like, hey, the city's shutting down, I had already typed up my resignation letter. I was ready to submit it. Like, I was ready to be like, all right, here's how I say I'm done. And I called my mom and she just was like, I don't think that this is the best idea. COVID is here. We don't know what this is like. You may need health insurance. I think that you should stick it out. And she said, do not quit your job in the middle of a global pandemic. So I didn't. I stayed. I continued to work. I continued to serve my clients on the side. It's kind of like a side hustle. And eventually, I just got so overwhelmed. I was very frustrated. I was very unhappy. And I honestly believe that it was because I didn't do what I knew to do when I knew to do it. I feel like it just snowballed and it got worse. And so in July 2020, I quit my job and I went full time in my business as an entrepreneur. And I already had retainer clients on deck, right? Like I didn't jump off into the deep end. Like I had these clients on deck that I knew I could serve and who I was already serving. It was the best decision that I ever made for myself in that moment, even though it seemed like not the smartest thing to do. It worked out so well for me and my mental health just to like have that space to breathe, because when you're working in advocacy and the world is on fire, it's horrible. It's terrible. But if it had not been for me spending that time from January until July, positioning my expertise, talking about my work, sharing case studies, showing behind the scenes of me working as a digital director, sharing results from campaigns that I've done, from initiatives that I launched, I don't know if my transition would have been as seamless as it was. When I first decided to go full-time in my business, no one knew who I was besides my friends and family. Like, they knew, but people on the internet didn't know me. I wasn't a popular girly. Like, I was very, and am still, very chill, very low-key. And so having to kind of like pop out in that way was the exact opposite of how I thought I would operate. So they didn't know what I was doing. They really had no reason to trust me with their business, and definitely not with their coins. But because I had spent that 7 months really showing them the behind the scenes and showing them who I was working with and how I was working and what results they were getting and the money they was getting and how their business was growing and booming and all these things, and really taking them on that journey with me, right? My business moved from a side hustle to an actual business. And a lot of my clients began to build real relationship with me. Some of my clients I still have to this day, and that's been 5 years later, right? So when I talk about positioning your expertise, I mean really telling your story, telling your why, telling the journey that you have been on growing your business to this point, the journey that you've been on to serving your clients, what you're doing differently, what sets you apart, what values are important to you, why are they important, how is what you do different from other people in your industry. And it's always important that we do this because this is how we build deep and genuine connection with our ideal clients. This is how they see themselves in our services and the results that we put on our sales pages and the work that we say that we want to do, and how they begin to really trust us. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do when you're thinking about building your business is position your expertise. Once you've done that, the next thing that you want to do before you go and launch your offer, or promote it on the internet or anything like that, is prime your audience. And basically what that means is that you want to nurture them, okay? You want to build a meaningful relationship with your audience. And a lot of times when we think about marketing, we think, I'm just going to pop up on the internet, I'm going to put a little carousel or a reel, I'm going to go live, and it's going to happen, right? The people are going to come, they're going to leave all the mini chat keywords, they're going to be so excited to work with me. That's not actually how it works, right? You think I'm going to send an email to a list of people that I haven't talked to in 6 months or 8 months or a year, and boom, money's going to be just like hidden in the bank account. In fact, you have to spend a significant amount of time building an actual and authentic relationship with your audience if you want them to spend their money with you. If you want to be top of mind when it's time for them to spend their money. you need to be building that relationship with them ahead of time. Outside of positioning your expertise, this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make, is that they just want to like, boom, drop a bomb and like expect that people had just been like waiting for them, but they haven't. Okay. They don't know you and they want to know you maybe, but you have to give them the opportunity. You have to nurture them. You have to love on them a little bit so that way they can suss you out, right? And see, like, are you the kind of person that they would pay if they want to work with? So one of the ways in which I primed my audience for my launch is that I brought them along the full-time entrepreneur. I talked a lot to them about how hard that journey was, what it was that I was going through on a day-to-day basis, and even what I wish I would have changed or what I wish I would have known from the very beginning of that journey. Like I was very authentic and very like transparent when I was going through that journey, and I kind of used my audience a little bit. I would journal because I just didn't know what I was doing, and I really didn't have anyone else that I could like truly talk to in that way. One of the biggest things that happened to me in 2020 was the awareness, or more so the awakening of who I am as an individual, like who I really am. When I decided to go into corporate America in college, I decided to kind of change my name from Brianca to Bree. And the reason for this was because I did not want to be prejudged by my name. I felt like my name was a little bit more ethnic than, some of the other people that I was around. And I have been told that like people with ethnic names, like their resumes get moved to the bottom of the pile. And so I decided that, I didn't want to be looked over for opportunities because my name was different. So I changed my name to Bree, and I spelled it specifically with 2 E's because I felt like that was like more of a proper way to do it. I watched videos to like learn how to talk more properly. I did all these things to kind of like ensure that I would be able to fit in. And I think that some of that kind of watered down the true nature and the true essence of like who I was. And I didn't really like reawaken that and rediscover that until 2020. To this day, I still have bosses who call me, who think that my actual government name is Bree, and they don't realize that my full name is actually Brianca. But the thing that I realized is that when I decided to go full-time in my business, that was a really big barrier to me showing up authentically. Because instead of me showing up as like the brazen, bold, beautiful person that I am with like all of this like charisma and attitude, instead I would show up like a little me and kind of cute, a little timid. I was afraid to really like ruffle feathers or say what I knew because I thought that like that would go against like what I was trying to build. And so I was afraid to really like stand out in my industry, and I was afraid to say what was on my mind, honestly. Like I felt like it wasn't being professional. I remember that like back in October, I met with one of my now friends in real life, and she said, I would have never guessed that this is your personality because on the internet, you just look real cute, like a Southern belle, which is so crazy because I'm not even from the South. I'm from St. Louis, which is in the Midwest. And I was just so surprised because anybody who knows me knows that I'm far from a Southern charmer, belle-esque kind of person. Like, in fact, I'm honestly, a mix of like Cardi B, Beyonce, and a little razzle-dazzle of Michelle Obama. So I had to figure out what it was that I was doing wrong on the internet or doing differently on the internet than what I was doing in real life, that my audience wasn't getting a really good picture of who I am as a person. And so I took that back to my business, and I realized that the biggest problem was that I had built my business on a facade. So I brought my audience along that journey of changing the name of my company to Brianca Johnson and Company. I told them the story of why I changed my name and why I was changing it back. I talked about changing my social media handles, and I even brought them along as I asked them if any of them had ever been in this scenario. So many women flooded my DMs telling me how they understood my story. They understood why I made the decisions that I made, and like how they have also made some of the same similar decisions when they've been put in that position as well. But could you imagine if I would have never told these stories, if I would have never connected with my audience in that way? Like how many of those women would have never been able to connect themselves to that part of their journey? And so priming your audience is so important because that's where we build bridges of connection. That's where our audience gets to feel like they're on the inside, like they are now my people, right? When we prime our audience, we let them know that not only do we see them, but we hear them and we're offering up a piece of ourselves for them to see and hear us. We create that content that is uniquely designed to educate them, inspire them, or give them fast action strategies to accomplish a goal that we've probably already accomplished. After you finish positioning your expertise, you want to make sure that you take that expertise and you break it down into bite-sized educational content, polarizing content, fast action strategies, etc. So that way your audience can start getting those small wins or seeing themselves in your story and really connecting it to you, connecting it to the relationship that they have with you through your content. Some other ways that I primed my audience for my launch was bringing them behind the scenes as I went through my rebrand. I brought them behind the scenes as I redid my coaching program. I brought them behind the scenes to consulting clients. I had them vote on names. I got to show them client testimonials and transformations. And all of these things really my audience see the intention and the design that I was putting into the program that I was launching. And by doing this, I was able to create a wait list of women who were interested in my offer before it even hit the internet. So I also want you to understand that priming your audience is about more than nurturing them. It's about getting them to be invested and excited about your offer or the initiative that you are about to bring into the marketplace. And if you skip this step, you'll end up launching an offer to people who know nothing about you, know nothing about what you do, have not asked about it, are not paying attention to it, are not looking for it. And you're going to be so frustrated. I just don't want you to let that happen, okay? Instead, I want you to bring your audience along the journey. And I want you to ask yourself, are you creating slides? Are you recording presentations? Are you creating content? Are you working with outside vendors? What are you doing that is preparing this offer to enter into the marketplace? And how can you show that through your content and your stories and your videos when you go live? Like, what can you do to help your audience feel like they are part of that process? Is there any input that you can get from your ideal clients or from your audience that will help you to make the offer more marketable, right? Don't forget to ask your audience questions about your offer. Are you voting on a name? Are you voting on the length of the program, on the cost of the program? Don't forget to do your market research before you even put this offer into the marketplace, because it will help your audience really see and visualize what it is that you are building. Feel like you are building something with them in mind. And ultimately, that is the goal of priming your audience. The third and final strategy, and one that I'm sure you're probably like really hanging on to this video, is going to be planning your launch. Now, when I planned my launch for my business, I was very clear about what it was that I was building. I knew how many women I wanted to serve. I knew what pathway I wanted them to go down. I knew that the price of the program was going to be. I was able to basically make sure that the launch that I was crafting was already set up for a 6-figure launch before I even started my program, because it was a high 4-figure investment. And I knew that I wanted a select number of women into it, but I knew that in order to get these women into my program, I was going to need a bond strategy. The 3 steps that I focused on were building out my lead magnet to make sure that I was nurturing my audience and priming them. I was leveraging my positioning strategies. You can actually see an example of what my lead magnet funnel looks like if you download the private pivot plan. You'll get access to a free strategy that I created to help you think about how you can pivot into consulting. And it comes with a 4-part private podcast series that really talks you through like some of the emotions that you might be feeling as you are pivoting into coaching and consulting. So if you haven't already, make sure you download that and grab that. It's an excellent resource. Now, once I created my lead magnet, I had to be intentional about driving traffic to that lead magnet, getting people to sign up. I use that lead magnet to basically position my launch event. So the launch event is where I really got to highlight my expertise. They're actually behind the scenes videos of me hosting my launch event, which was called the Launch Live Show. You can actually go and see that, click that video right here, and you can watch that video. There's a whole docu-series that I did as I was going through the process of planning out my launch event. That launch event is where I really got to highlight my expertise. It's where I got to show my audience what the offer was that I was building and how it could serve them. I was very excited during this launch to announce my program because I have been working on it so hard and I already had women who were ready to enroll into it. So I felt confident going into it because they weren't surprised that I was launching a new program. In fact, a lot of the women were waiting for it. So I want you to understand that all of these 3 steps are working together. They're building upon each other. But you want to make sure that you don't skip out or take any shortcuts because they will all get your audience to the point where they are just like burning hot and just like so excited to work with you. Once I had my launch event planned out, then I knew I had to have a back end funnel that would nurture the people who came to my launch event, who downloaded my lead magnet. It would nurture them through the steps that would take care of them and give them all the information that they needed to make an informed decision about enrolling in my program. It took me a really long time to write all of those emails. I would not lie to you, but the funnel did what it was supposed to do. And it nurtured the people. Even if they dropped off, if they didn't open an email, if they didn't click, but they didn't move forward, having those emails in place really helped because I was even able to do things like retarget them. So if you open an email but you didn't click, you got an email. If you click an email but you didn't purchase, you got another email. So your emails are designed to help them feel like they have every single thing that they need to make the best decision possible. And so as you go out here and you work to build your 5 or your 6-figure business, I want you to know that it's critical that you have a solid offer, but it's also important that you position your expertise and you prime your audience and you take the time to strategically plan out your launch. So that way you don't have to link it and you don't have to launch an offer and you don't have to build a business that no one is paying attention to because that is discouraging and frustrating and irritating, right? So these steps, these tools, these strategies will help you prevent that. And if along the way you have any questions or, that you need additional support, I want you to click the link below and you can join me inside of the Brand You Consulting Institute. We are currently accepting women who are interested in pivoting from corporate employee to certified consultant. This program was literally built for you. If you are on the fence about pivoting into coaching or consulting, click the link below and download the free pivot plan. It's going to give you a step-by-step strategy that you can leverage to begin positioning your consulting business. And it comes with 4 free private podcast episodes that are also going to help you overcome some of those mindset hurdles. So make sure you check that out as well. But before you go, make sure you head on over to the comments and let me know which of these strategies are you excited to implement right now today. I really want to know, so let me know in the comments. And I cannot wait to see you in the next video. I will talk to you later. Bye.